G'day guys, it's Pete Moriarty here, and I am covering all of your top questions on Chromebooks, everything that you need to know. Now, why Chromebooks? Well, if you're in an education institution, or maybe you're a consumer user, you're considering one for yourself, or maybe for the parents, great for that. Or if you're a business owner and you are looking for hardware options for your team, I thoroughly recommend you consider Chromebooks. Now, they work primarily with the Google ecosystem. So ideally, you want to be in a school that's working with Google, or you want to be in a business that's working with G Suite. That's how you're going to get the best experience. But of course, they're going to work just fine if you just have a Gmail address and you want to log in with that Google identity. Now, you may be wondering where I am right now. I'm literally traveling around Australia in a camper van, and I am walking the talk of working from anywhere. We are a small business that helps other companies get set up for remote work, helps businesses have flexible working options for their teams, and so I'm literally living it. I'm the CEO of the business called IT Genius, and what that means is that I get to eat the dog food, as Google say, and actually roam around and work from the van. So I've been here for 3 weeks now, got a couple more weeks to go on this particular trip, and I'm loving it. As long as I've got an internet connection, my Chromebook of course, and maybe a headset, I can connect with my team and get all of my work done. So in this video, we're going to be covering the top questions for Chromebook use, and we get peppered with questions all the time. We had a previous video we uploaded a couple of years ago with the top things that Chromebooks can't do, and we get peppered with comments on that still to this day on can I do this, can I not do this, and so this is going to be our new master video covering all of the things you need to know about Chromebooks. So who is a Chromebook suitable for? Well, as I said, if you're either in an education institution or maybe you're a small business owner making decisions for your team, Chromebooks are really useful. But at the end of the day, Chromebooks perform best when all your work is in the cloud. So that means that you ideally want to be operating from a browser for the most part for the work that you're doing. What that means is that if you're using a Mac or a PC and you're using Windows or Mac specific applications, might not work as well, but there's many online alternatives to many applications that run on the desktop these days, and I'm going to cover some of the options there. So I'll go through some of the most basic questions, but if you want to drop your questions below, whether you're on the live stream or if you're catching up on the replay, then I'll be very happy to answer all of those questions as best we can. We can't reply to every comment, but I will make sure that we get to as many as possible. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into it. So who's it great for? I've already covered if you're working in the web, that's going to be the best person that it's for, but is this for executives? Is it suitable for, general staff members? Who's going to be the best suited to work on a Chromebook? Well, anyone who's a cloud worker is going to fit in nicely in the Google ecosystem and the Chrome ecosystem. Now, if you're familiar with the Chrome browser, that's pretty much what you get with a Chromebook. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and you'll get a little bit of an idea of what a Chromebook actually looks like. So this is my Chromebook. I can open up my Google Chrome here, and you can see I've got my Asana stuff that I'm working on. I've got my live that I'm monitoring as I'm working on that. And if I want to open up my files, I can open up my file browser here, and I've got access to all the files as well. I've got other applications that run on the Chromebook, like my plugins and add-ons and other bits and pieces. And so the Chromebook allows me to get everything done that I would on a normal computer, but there's just, one or two things that are a little bit different. So some of the most basic questions that we get when someone is asking about a Chromebook are things like, can it print? Yes, you can connect to printers. Connect to Bluetooth? Yes, it can connect to Bluetooth. Can it connect to a stereo? Yes, my particular Chromebook has an audio jack, so it can connect to a stereo. And so it's got all of those basics. Does it connect to Wi-Fi? Yes, it does. Does it have a SIM card slot? Unfortunately, most models do not. I don't know why. I'd love to see more laptops with SIM card slots. If you agree, let me know in the comments. Now, a Chromebook is pretty much the same as what you would expect from a normal computer, but there's a few key advantages that Chromebooks tend to have that other machines don't. Many Chromebooks are actually convertible. This is an older unit here. This is an Asus model, and this actually flips right over and turns into an iPad. That's pretty cool. Many of the Chromebook machines actually are able to flip right over, and they're also touchscreen as well when you flip them over, which is really cool. And some of them have styluses and other options for that. Now, when they're compared to, let's say, a Windows machine or a MacBook, there's not that many touchscreen options that are really great for those devices. Microsoft have done a great job with the Surface Pro. Probably the only other machine that I would consider with a touchscreen, apart from just using something like an iPad. So if you're the kind of person who likes to draw, if you're in any kind of creative mode, or maybe, for example, you want to use the Jamboard app, then using a device with touch is a great idea, and lots of Chromebooks support touch. The next question that we get all the time is, do they support local storage? When people say Chromebooks are built for the cloud worker or for working in the cloud, many people think, well, maybe there's not much local storage on them. And yes, some of the older models had less storage. Some of them only had 16 or 32 gigabytes of storage, but that was still enough to get, like photos downloaded from the internet or opening up a zip file or working with a PDF file. It's enough storage, but the newer models have much more. So we're seeing Chromebook models with 256, even 512 gigabytes of storage as an internal flash storage, which you're able to store files on. Now, personally, I don't store that much locally on the Chromebook. From time to time, I'll have some movies on there, and then if I'm working with, let's say, maybe some videos that I'm recording, I may even put down on that Chromebook on the local machine my files that I dump from my SD cards, and I wait for Google Drive to then synchronize those up online. So I do use the local storage, but not for much. I kind of treat it like a bit of a throwaway machine in that I would never put anything on the Chromebook locally that I would be worried about if I lost. And that's less about the capability of the Chromebook and more about my philosophy of how I work with my machines. I want to make sure that everything I'm doing is always available in the cloud, so that if something were to happen to my local computer, even if I lost it, even if it was stolen, which I've had those things happen to me, I even spilled a glass of wine on one of my machines, if that computer ended up being toast, I wouldn't have to worry about what the backup was on that particular local machine. So there's some of the reasons why I don't really worry too much about the local storage, but if you are interested in that, then that might be a good one. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about movies. I mentioned movies. Well, how can you watch movies on a Chromebook? Unfortunately, you don't really get Chromebooks with anything like a DVD player or a disk drive, right? So you could plug in a USB disk drive if you wanted to, but you'd have to then find a Chrome app to get that to work. So I'm not sure exactly how you'd go with that. But I do know that because Chromebooks will run Android apps, I can download the Netflix app and I can download the Google Play Movies app. And both of those allow me to watch movies. I don't think there is an Apple Movies app for Android, but at least Netflix and Google Play gives me enough of my movie selection that I need to be able to watch movies on the go. Now, I can also plug this into a HDMI monitor as well, which is pretty cool. That doesn't currently work for me for Amazon Prime, but it does work for Netflix and for Google Play, which is pretty groovy. So what that means is that if I want to plug into a TV, I can either do it from the device, or I can use something like a Chromecast to actually cast from my computer screen up to a TV screen. So watching movies is awesome, and I typically end up using the audio jack on my Pixelbook to connect to an external speaker, and that gives me a little bit better audio. So it does have speakers built in, obviously, but it's movie time, right? So you want to have better audio, and I therefore plug in an external one. The next biggest question we get all the time is, can I game on a Chromebook? Now, apart from the Android App Store and the Google Play Store, there's not really many games that are going to run on Chrome OS. That's because Google want you to do everything in the cloud and in the browser. So there's heaps of browser-based games and they work fine, but apart from that, you've got to use the Google Play Store. Developers have been building a lot more games for the Chromebook, and so if you're into arcade games, particularly considering the large user base of students that now have Chromebooks, there's a lot more games that are now available to be installed via the Google Play Store inside the Chromebook on the, the Android App Store, and they work pretty well. I'm not much of a gamer myself for those kind of arcade style games, and so it's not great. Unfortunately, AAA titles that would usually run on a Windows machine, and to a lesser extent some games run on Macs, they're just not going to happen on a Chromebook because you literally can't install the apps on there. However, I did hear recently that Steam are potentially launching a Steam game store for Chrome OS, which is really, really big news. Now, that's going to require game developers to actually port their games over to Linux or to Chrome OS for that to work, but I'm really interested to see where gaming is going to go for Chromebooks. Now, keep in mind that the graphics processors are not super beefy in a Chrome machine. They're going to be able to do your web browsing and get most of the other things done that you need to get done on a work computer, but they're not designed the same way like a MacBook Pro is to handle video conferencing with like 300 people on a Zoom call. It's just not going to have the oomph or the processing power to be able to handle that, because these are designed as long battery life and lightweight machines that are going to run for a long time, be very cost effective, and allow you to get your web work done without having to plug in every 3 or 4 hours. And so they're not really designed or tuned to be able to play those AAA titles or, larger, more graphic intensive applications. And I guess that's a great segue to start talking about productivity applications and applications around working with design or anything creative. Now, plenty of people have asked, can I edit photos or can I edit video on a Chromebook? And myself producing content from time to time, I want to jump in and make a small edit on a video. To this date, I've not had a great option for editing video on the Chromebook. There are a couple of Android apps that will run and will allow you to edit videos, but honestly, being designed for mobile, The gestures are just not that awesome running them on a Chromebook with a touchscreen, and what I've found is also the processing power, particularly with 4K content, it just really slows down. I've got a pretty beefy Chromebook. It's a Google Pixelbook, which was released I think 3 or 4 years ago now, but at the time it was a really highly spec'd machine, but unfortunately it's still just really not got enough punch in the performance department to be able to render video or work smoothly with any kind of complex video or photo editing. So there are applications like Adobe Lightroom which run from the Android store. They will run on the Chromebook. You'll be able to get your basic touch-ups done, but don't expect to use this as a primary device if you're a photographer or a videographer. For that, you're most likely going to go with a Mac or a Windows PC and use one of the more professional application suites like Adobe or Final Cut Pro, and you get the idea. Now, the thing that I love about this limitation in my Chromebook is, as a business owner, it actually forces me to delegate those tasks. It means that I'm not going to be stuck doing those low value, low priority tasks, and I can actually hand them over to someone else to take care of for me. And so that actually ends up being a bit of a benefit for me, but if it's something that you're interested in doing yourself, then a Chromebook might not be for you. But keep in mind that there are other options. If you're interested in doing lightweight image editing, you could use something online like Canva. It runs completely in the browser, works excellent, and you can of course download in PDF or JPEG or whatever format that you need once you finish working with your files, and then those finished images will be able to be used on the Chromebook without any trouble. And honestly, that's my recommendation for business owners. If you're considering a Chromebook, this is the best way to make sure that you stay productive and you don't get distracted with those side tasks.